that would be something that is elastic. Let's look at inelastic. Typically, you're going to see a steep line here. Here, if I change that same price and drop down, for this change in price, I get a really small change in the quantity demanded. That's the idea behind elasticity, is I'm looking for that maximum combination. What's going to profit me the most? That's where this rule comes up. Profit maximizing rule of elasticity. One of the most important things in this chapter is to be able to look at that E and know exactly what it means. It's not important that you, as a non-economist, can figure out elasticity. It's that you know what it means and how to use it in different situations. If I tell you the price elasticity of something is a 0.5, you should immediately say, that's less than 1. It's an inelastic product. Tell the person to raise their price. They'll maximize their profit that way. That's how I want you to use it. Now, one more thing in this part is that these are put in absolute terms, meaning that you disregard any negative signs that you see. If I see E equals negative 0.75, for instance, that is still inelastic. That's the way I would look at that. If E is equal to negative 1.5, that is considered elastic, and we need to respond accordingly. Okay. Now, what determines elasticity? There are 4 factors that determine how elastic an item will be. The first one we've kind of touched on. That's necessity versus a luxury. Something you absolutely have to have will tend to be inelastic. If I have to have it, is price really that important? That's what you're running into there. Versus a luxury, something you don't need. You tend to be much more price sensitive when you're talking about items that you do not need. They're not necessities. The second one is availability of substitutes. The availability of substitutes. If we look at an item like Coke, for instance, it tends to be very elastic because there are so many other drinks out there. So many other things I can use instead of it. The more available substitutes there are, the more elastic the price becomes. It's easier to switch. If I talk about your natural gas for your heating of your house, the only substitute you have is electric. There aren't a lot of substitutes there. Therefore, it becomes pretty inelastic. The greater the number of substitutes, the greater the elasticity. The third one is the relative price. By relative price, they mean what percentage is made of your income does this take? And I'll give you an example. I go into the store and my bubble gum costs 1 cent. Suddenly, it raises to 5 cents. Does that really make a difference to me? Probably not. I'll probably buy it anyway. That's a 500% increase in price, and I still didn't care. Didn't care at all. Still made the decision. Because it was a very small part of my salary, I considered this inelastic. Now, another item. Let's look at a car that costs $10,000. If I had a 500% increase there, would it matter? Yes, it would. That's the issue we're looking at. If it's a small item, it typically will be inelastic. It's just one of those things you overlook. It doesn't matter. It's insignificant. Whereas if it's a bigger ticket item, it tends to be more elastic. The example I give quite often is I will shop. When I go to the grocery store, I will pick up laundry detergent at whichever grocery store I go to. However, when I go to get a washing machine, I'm going to check all the stores for their price. I'm much more price sensitive on the big ticket items than I am the small. That's what that means. The fourth determinant of elasticity is time. The longer the period of time we're talking about, the more elastic a product becomes. The example here would be if gasoline goes to $10 a gallon tomorrow, what are you going to do? The reality is you're going to have to pay it. For most of us, we don't have a choice. We have to be able to transport ourselves. But 6 months from now, will I have made changes? Most certainly. I would see more carpooling, the sale of electric cars. I would have more options at that point. You've given me more time. Another example at my house, if my gas bill suddenly skyrockets and triples in value, there's not much I can do in the short run. But a year from now, I would probably have an electric furnace. The more time I have to adjust, the more elastic my demand will become. Now, that's the end of price elasticity in the determinants of elasticity. And that ends this segment.